Hey, where have you been? Let's get into it. Do you ever find yourself being frustrated with repetitive tasks? Do you find yourself doing the same thing over and over again and wonder why you're not getting any better? Are you particularly good at something but wondering how to take it to the next level? Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Joel for JiveLearning, and today we're going to talk about double loop learning and how it can improve our ability to complete tasks and get more out of our learning experiences. If you find anything in this video useful, be sure to give it a like to let us know. And now onto the case for double loop learning, where two loops are better than one. Let's start with the learning process. When we learn to do something, it normally goes something like this. First, we identify the goal being what we want to achieve. We then start by taking action using what we know already. And as we go through this process, we start to uncover gaps between what we know and what we don't know. And we proceed to fill in the gaps by constructing or building new knowledge, by conducting research, checking for examples, following a guide, experimenting with different techniques, or finding someone with experience to coach us through the parts of the process we don't understand. We apply a combination of this new knowledge with our existing knowledge to complete the task. And then when the task is finished, we have a feeling of relief and/or satisfaction, and we have a mental model of how the task was performed. This mental model can then be drawn upon and used the next time we need to complete the task, or one similar to it. We can then use this model to improve our proficiency through the process of repetition. Learning through repetition, the single loop. Now, the circular journey of repetition is an important part of the learning process. Each time we circle around and repeat the process, the more familiar we become with the steps in the task we're doing, and the more confident we become at performing those steps, resulting in our ability to complete the task more quickly and consistently. This serves us well in the short term. However, we can't solely rely on repetition to help us grow our capability, become more efficient, or make our process better. This is because regardless of how good we might get at this particular task, the circle of repetition always takes us from the same starting point back around to the same end point. This effectively means we're only improving how to get to an existing destination and we're not moving towards a new one. Let's run through an example. One of my hobbies is creating remixes of video game music. Normally I approach music creation roughly the same way every time, through an established process built over many years of refinement and experimentation. Typically I'd select the song I'd want to remix and then think about the kind of track I'd like to make, say electronic, rock or hip hop. I then start the creation process by working through what I know, identifying the key of the original song, and begin making a beat and bass line to provide a groove or foundation for the track. Then while referring to the original song, I start to build my own take on the main melody, experimenting with different styles and instruments to see what fits my vision. I then adapt each of these parts so they start to fit together to form a catchy tune. And once that's done, the section can be duplicated and I can repeat the creative process again, reimagining those elements in various ways to create new sections of interest, which at the end combine together to form the overall arrangement of the song. However, when returning to work on a particular song that I needed to finish for a community album this month, I got stuck. My initial goal was to create the best track possible. The project, which I started several months ago, was untidy and unfinished and still a bit short at only 2 minutes long, and I didn't know what to add or what to improve. My previous approach that I relied upon for creating new sections wasn't working, and ultimately I got stuck with the task unfinished. If we get caught in a situation like this, what can we do to get going again and complete the task? This is where double loop learning comes in. Continuous improvement through double loop learning. Where single loop learning is simply about doing the task, double loop learning involves reflecting upon our learning experience while doing the task to determine if the task and goal are in alignment and considering if our approach can be altered to better achieve that goal. Each time we do a task, it is a learning opportunity for us to reflect on our understanding of the goal, its purpose, and how the task fits in amongst that. This includes determining if the task is serving the goal in its current state, determining if the goal is serving us, and redefining the task or our goal as necessary by identifying what isn't working and changing our approach. With that reflection, we may find ourselves doing the same thing over and over again without much improvement and continue living with frustrations or inefficiencies that we don't have to live with. This doesn't mean we have to change the way we do everything all the time, but each time we do something we should reflect upon the task and the points of friction that lead to inefficiencies and frustrations. Seek to understand what's causing them and consider if we have control over them, and then using this information to improve our process through continuous discovery and experimentation, be it different ways of doing the task or different tools, to more effectively reach the goal. Then we test our approach by stepping through the process again. This shifts our thinking from being stuck in a task-driven process to a bigger picture, goal-driven process. Going back to our example, by looking at the situation through the double loop learning lens, it was clear my existing process wasn't serving its purpose, being to create the final section of this song. So I gave myself permission to move outside the process, to focus just on the part that I needed to finish, instead of considering the song as a whole, which was clouding my thought process. This allowed me to adopt a more free-form approach to creation without expectations, experimenting with what sounded good instead of what would specifically fit. I ended up jamming around with an interesting bass line for the part that needed finishing, which then led to a new lead tune. This caused a domino effect of creation, and the remaining parts of the project started to fall into place. And consequently, after months of inactivity, I ended up finishing the track in one night. Now, this was a great win. However, when looking at the finished track, I still wasn't satisfied with it. It didn't represent my best work, which made me feel compelled to do more, and I started to get pulled back into my original process, wanting to make it resemble my original vision. What made me feel like I wasn't achieving this? Were my expectations too high? This is where the reflection step of double loop learning came into play. I stopped and reconsidered my goal. The goal wasn't to create the best track possible. That was something I imposed on myself. Instead, the goal was to create a track for this community album. That's it. It didn't need to be the best remix in the world, it just needed to be my interpretation of the song in the style I'm known for. And by redefining my goal, I was able to cast away the pressure and shackles of having to produce the best thing to just producing something, which in turn enabled me to break away from my usual process so I could tidy up the track and get it ready for release. Each time you circle through a task from beginning to end, be sure to reflect on the task, the goal, and if they're serving you effectively. If they're not, change your approach to the task to better meet the goal, redefine your goal, or both. If you find yourself struggling with perfectionism, check out this video where we'll work through some practical ways to overcome it. JiveLearning is the weekly show where we learn to improve ourselves and the lives of those around us. If you found this video useful, click the like button to let us know. And for more videos like this, be sure to click the subscribe and bell button to be notified when new videos drop. But until then, I'm Joel, and that's your learning for today. You're welcome. And don't get stuck in a loop, unless it's a double loop.
When the wheel keeps turning, I'll be double loop learning. We're not giving up, giving up. My learning is up to me. I'm here to support my neurological chemistry. Now don't just repeat, you must reflect. There, you see, now get it.